All right, so I thought I'd do a little video on the boot cover parts. So I got two different boots here. This is the rugged sole version, no flap and buckle on the top. This is the smooth sole version. Sorry, it's all flipped around on me. Give me a second here. Smooth sole version with the buckle thing on the top. All right, so I got two different versions. They're both the mid-calf, and it does fit just a little bit different. These are the exact same size boot. What I did first was I put these are both the left, unfortunately I got the right side here, but I put the middle piece on first, and I tried to make sure that these corners were about even, and they're going to fit. This is going to fit differently on everybody because it's a larger it's larger than it's intended to be, unless you got a fairly large foot. These are size 12s, and so it's just going to give you an idea. So that I placed on first, and then I put the toe cap over. And kind of found a nice happy medium of making sure that the gap all the way around the sole and the toe cap looked even, because there's supposed to be a gap. It does not sit down on the sole, it sits up like that. And then I marked one side with the pencil, went ahead and drilled it just one side, and using a just hand drill. The drill bit is, what was it again? Oh, 13/64. Okay, that's because for some reason when you drill through here, it tends to shrink a little bit, and I needed it to be just enough for the post to go through. Anyways, did one side. Then I made sure that there was some flex in the toe, and kind of wrapped around, gave myself a little bit of gap between the toe and the centerpiece, and marked the other side and drilled that as well. And then once I had this kind of all in place, here, let me move this. Had this all in place of making sure it's not going to sit right, and I'll explain why in just a moment. Make sure that was all kind of in place where it needed to be. I then figured out what the distance of the upper piece near the arch of the foot needed to be, to make sure it's sitting basically right at the very, just keep sliding down, right at the very tip of the decorative lap right there. That's where this is supposed to sit, and try to make sure it's fairly even on each side except the outside. I went ahead and made it just a tiny bit larger so that this back rivet will arch back and connect here. So it's just faint, shorter, a little bit shorter gap there, a little bit longer gap there, but not much. So the reason why I'm having trouble with this sitting back in place, if you have that issue, is because this overhang, as I mentioned, the middle piece is longer than it needs to be. So we need to cut kind of a crescent moon shape out of there. But it's important to, what I'm going to do is lay this down as flat as it will go, because it'll arch so that you can walk. I want to lay that down as flat as it'll go and draw a pencil line. Okay, then I'm going to unbolt this, and I'm going to trim behind the pencil line. You don't want to trim on the pencil line, because if it ever popped further back and got stuck, you'd be in a lot of trouble. Same thing on the toe. If there's excess that you can trim off, you can do a slight crescent moon there as well, and that'll help with the performance and movement of the piece. Just do not overcut, and you can actually just use a good pair of scissors to trim that. And then once that's all done, it again will be taking, a pencil and kind of drawing straight across there. Now this piece does extend past right about there, and it does extend pretty much where I have it here. So don't trim this too short or leaving this too long. It ends just a little bit past the rivet about there, and like I said, again here, just a little bit past the rivet right about where I have it. So you do kind of see this piece underneath here, so it's important that you leave the appropriate underneath, but all this is excess that you need to cut away, just doing a nice cut. And that's the same thing for the other side as well. All right, I'll show you how this looks in just a moment. Okay, so I took it apart, just unscrewing the little posts, and this faint line is where I had traced the overlap. laying it flat. And the darker line is where I mentioned it needs to be behind the post, and I'm just coming up a little bit closer, but leaving a decent amount there and coming back down right there. So that's where I'm going to trim that. I already trimmed off the bottom that I penciled right there. It's not a total straight cut. It kind of does a weird, almost a slight like dip and then back up again, but that's probably going to all depend on how you position that and how that fits on your boots. But yeah, just a little piece of that, just using basic good sharp scissors. Give you a nice clean cut. Just be mindful of the angle you cut. You know, that's something you might want to consider when you're cutting that, so you don't cut at some weird angle. So now I'm going to just cut that out, and then there's a tiny bit here in the front I could trim, and that will help me get more movement. So there it is, trimmed up and put together. These last rivets, or they're not actually rivets, they're screw posts, actually go through the boot. So you got to make sure everything after this is all put together, when you're putting on the boot, make sure you're aligning both sides nice and even. Maybe have some assistance for somebody to go through and mark, maybe with a silver Sharpie or something that will identify, and then you can either punch the hole or drill the hole through your boot. And then right underneath this area, the toe was glued on to the boot. So toe section on each side glued and riveted back here. That's how it stays in place. And for the midsection, kind of get an idea here of how much I ended up cutting away. So this is the original cast piece here. So for my size, the holes are about there. Hopefully you can see that on each side. And again, what I'll do is I'll just do one side, check the other, one side, check the other, just to give myself enough gap to make sure it's all good. But this is how much I ended up cutting away, and up here ended up cutting away. I couldn't decide if I wanted there or there. I ended up doing there. It's a little close, but I still have a little bit of overlap, so I'm happy with that. So there you go. That's basically the boot covers here for the Tactical Agents, and the process of making it fit your boots. All right, so I'm trying a little bit of a different method. The first one, I started with the toe caps and worked towards the ankle. On these boots, I'm starting on the back accidentally, because I put the finished one on here and marked these holes already, and realized that because I'm building for multiple suits, that the cover was for a different size boot than these. But I'd already marked it, and it wasn't fitting on the toe correctly. So now I'm kind of reverse engineering, because these are already set back here. And I'm going to try, like I said, I'm not sure how I can figure that out, other than what I was doing to make sure it was symmetrical was measuring from like the distance of the heel in a nice 90 degree to where that is, and then to the stitch line. And so I did a bunch of measuring on, you know, the outside of the heel, comparing to the outside of the heel, and then to the inside, and also making sure that it's, you know, leaving just a little bit of that and overlapping, keeping, you know, that in center. So since I really like the positioning of these to be as equal to or mirrored to each other as possible, I'm liking this idea. We'll just see how it goes forward towards the toe. And what I've done is I just kind of slid these in. Here, I'll pull this back out here. I had it all measured, but we'll see if I can do it one hand. So, you know, so that's just in place. And so what I'm doing now is making sure I've got the left on the right, right on the right. Yes, okay. So again, that's going to slide there, and I was measuring, making sure that it was, you know, the overhang was even and the distance was even, and getting an idea. Let's see, that is the left, so that's going to be that toe cap. Getting an idea where that would sit, how much the overhang. So we'll see how this works out. Just, you know, figuring this out and figuring out what might be a better method to apply the boot covers, working from the back forward or from the forward towards the ankle or from the toe to the ankle. Not sure yet. It might be fine either way. Just exploring the options here and seeing, or giving you guys an idea of maybe how you could approach this when it's your turn to build these for your boots. Okay, so an update. I also need to indicate right, left, because looking at it and switching it around, I keep getting a little confused. But, you know, it is indicated inside here, which is right and which is left. As I mentioned, I'm working from the ankle towards the toe, and right now I'm really liking this method. You know, this is screwed through the boot, and with this material being so flexible, I was able to line this in, measure the distance here, making sure it's equal on each side with the overhang, and then using a pencil marking. And then when I drilled it, I just kind of moved the hole up a tiny bit to give me just a little bit more flex room in between here, just like a smidge. And what I like about this is, you know, I was able to bolt these with just flexing the material. I didn't have to take it all off. But most importantly is now the toe alignment. I can make sure that the toe is, it's kind of hard to do this one-handed, is going to sit properly, not leaning to one side, not too far back. I can really make sure that that's sitting equally on each side and then mark where they need to go. So really kind of digging the idea of moving from the ankle towards the toe with the assembly of the boot covers for the tactical agent. So yeah, this is kind of a cool way. I got a couple more boots to do like this, and if it keeps going this direction, then this is probably what I would recommend for you to do. Okay, well, I think that was definitely a lot easier. So I finished the right side first, and then I measured the distance here and the distance here, and then I did that, measured it here and from here, and I added like a little pencil line, so that I kind of had an idea where the toe would need to sit. And I was trying for mirror symmetrical as much as possible. Let's see if I can bring that in, and I think I achieved that. So what I did was for the toe, this is the last one, I did this outside. I measured and made sure everything was looking good, because I figured the outside of the foot is probably what you're going to see the most. And then I went ahead and screwed that in place. Again, you know, this is really flexible. Oh yeah, and then I'm just drilling the hole, and I just put the piece of wood, shoved the piece of wood up underneath so I can drill. I'm using, what was this again? 17/64 drill bit. And then I just made sure this was really, you know, where I needed it to be after all the screw posts were in place. Marked that again, and drilled the hole and put it in, and it's great. And now I just penciled where I need to cut. I'm penciling here and here, so that if not if, but I'm quite sure, for an example, you know, I have to kind of cut out like a moon shape and a little bit of a crescent moon maybe back there. So then now I got to remove everything and trim the middle piece to give a little bit more flexibility underneath the toe and ankle area, and then trim the bottom to look appropriate, and keeping it at a nice angle to match all of that as well. And then I'm just going to palm sand that edge a little bit to clean it up in case my cuts aren't so good, and then they're ready for paint. So yeah, that method I think ended up working out quite well. All right, so I'm working on another pair of boots, and this is the outside. So I put the hole in the boot there first, and I want to line up to figure out where to put this one is. Put that one, figure out where it is. I'm tired, been working quite a bit. What I recommend is, you can see how much this dropped when I moved out that center piece. I originally had marked it, and I was like, no, let me slide this center middle piece underneath, and just to kind of get a better idea. And because that's changing the girth over the arch of the boot, that really changes the location of where that can go. Again, also kind of moving it around to mimic the detail on the boot to be centered from left to right as much as possible. So all of those factors make a difference on where you're going to drill your hole in your boot. And since this is literally a hole in your boot, I would take your time to make sure that all of these pieces are lining up right to do just that. Okay, so I'm going to be assembling the toe pieces. This is my second time doing it because I did not put anything on the threads like thread locker or whatnot. So when I wore this to San Diego Comic-Con, the screws twisted as I was walking and I lost them, and I lost a toe cap. And I went on trooping that day, even though I was missing a toe cap. Not too many people noticed, but I don't want to have to experience that again. So, you know, I was rushing that build and trying to get it done on time. So now that I'm redoing it, I'm going to be using the blue locker. Okay. What I recommend is to have some paper towels, maybe some Q-tips, and some blue gloves, maybe, so you don't get it on your hands. And you want to be very careful so you don't get it on the parts as you're assembling it. So first thing is everything is painted, even the heads to the I forget what these are called now. Yeah, I don't know. Totally drawing a blank. Screw post. All right, screw post. So all the heads are painted white on those. So let's get started. Okay, so they're already cleaned up, they're already painted, they're already weathered, and now it's just time to assemble. So I already know they fit. I've already done a pre-assembly, obviously, because I've worn it before, but that's going to be very important for you to do. What I recommend is go ahead and popping these in place. You can kind of see how it's weathered, and if you like it in that order, or if you want to move them around to match however you've weathered. I'd say that looks pretty good. It looks consistent there. That's okay. That matches really well with the tone there. So I'm cool with that. The back ones I'm not going to do at this moment. Those are going to actually get screwed through the boot. So I'm not going to worry about that. So the first thing I'm going to do is line these up, make sure everything's good again. Yep, so those line up nice. There's just enough of that protruding through that this locks in place. Again, I'm making sure I'm doing left with the left. I'm making sure I got that I didn't mark it yet. That's right. You can barely see it. It's scribed in the mold and left. So this is my new one. Okay, so that's ready to go. I'm going to move those out of the way so I don't accidentally drip any blue Loctite. And I'm only going to need to do 2 for this side and then 2 for that side. And this is a really tiny nubby kind of screwdriver. It's what you need to get down in the boot and tighten it. And it's got like a dimple here, so it makes it really easy to put your finger or your thumb so that you can get there and kind of keep it in place and rotate it. Any other screwdriver longer than this doesn't really fit down in the ankle and give you enough room to get your hand and tighten it. So luckily I had some of these on hand, and that is a lifesaver for me. All right, so just going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on the threads. You don't need a lot, just enough to make sure it's covered. Yep. Now I did a little too much. I don't want that to run out. So hopefully, I don't know if you can see it. It's relatively clear, but it is blue. make those tight. Check those all the way around the threads. All right, so those are tight. And repeat on this one. So double checking again, got right and right. Whoa, that was a big grip. Let's do that again. Make sure none of the blue is on the outside. All right, so that's good. All right, so that's basically the assembly of the toe pieces, and then these will go here. Let me see what I like better. Maybe switch that out, it's a little darker. Match that side. All right, so then that's the left and the right covers. And so then now what I need to do is on the boot, there's actual holes that I had to make to screw those in place. And the other thing I need to do, which I don't quite have ready right now, is the edge of this toe cap needs to glue down to the top of the toe. So see, this is the right boot, so that's gonna go down in place. And just right underneath there, I had some other adhesive stuff that didn't stick, so gotta clean this up and get ready to do that. So that'll be in just a moment because I need to find that stuff. So anyhow, at least using the blue Loctite should prevent those screws from backing out, and hopefully I don't lose any pieces next time I troop in this. And there we go. Okay, so now that we got these all screwed together and I got these put in place, as I mentioned, these need to get screwed to the boot. And this is not going to be easy. So I got the right side. Make sure I've got the right boot. Move that one out of the way. Here, I'll move it to the left side just for a moment. I mentioned earlier, this little thumb screw makes it really possible to reach in and put the screw in. So I think what I'm going to attempt to do is see if I can get this screw to line up where I already have the hole. Okay, there we are. So I'm going to thread that kind of through the leather boot there. And I think what I'm going to do now is put the blue Loctite okay, it's a little bit much, but at least I know it's going to run down on the threads. I think. Yeah. Nope, it went mostly on the boot. Okay. So, again, making sure I'm grabbing the right side. Bring this over. You don't want to cross thread this, so getting that to line up and thread properly. It's going, then make sure it's tight. Okay, so what I'm doing there is like this, and I only have room to kind of turn it. So that is in that cup there, keeping that in position. I've tried other nubby screwdrivers, and this is the only one that lets me actually do that. So we're good there. So I'm going to repeat that on this side. Pushing that in there. It fits really nice in these. I can turn it upside down and it'll stay. So that's very helpful. So just gotta be careful not to knock it off as I put it in the boot. Just looking through there, finding, there we are. Just gonna thread that through a little bit. Again, put a little bit more of the blue Loctite. I'm running low. I've been using quite a bit of that on other projects. Okay, and again, pulling this over, lining those up. that's screwed in place. I still need to glue the toe cap in place, as I mentioned, but do that. I'll do the same thing for this one now. That seems to work fairly well. Putting the screw in first, then putting the blue Loctite. I wasn't sure because I was like, if I put the blue Loctite on the screw first and then try to put it through, I'm going to just have a bunch of blue Loctite possibly in the inside of the boot as I'm trying to get the screw through here. So I thought this is probably the best method. That was a bit much. And last one. All right, so those are now screwed in place. As I mentioned, I got to get some epoxy or something to glue that. I got to see what I have on hand. I forgot the name of the stuff, and then glue those in place. So we'll do that next. All right, so we don't get confused here. I think I was calling this stuff Loctite. It's thread locker by Permatex. And this is what we used for all of the screws. And these are two different types of Loctite glue. We have what they call the super glue, and we have the extreme glue. I have not used the extreme glue before. I just opened it and I was just checking to see the cap. This one has a much more narrow cap, and this one seems, in my opinion, when I'm reading this, it might have a slightly faster bond. And this one's just a little bit longer. This basically says it cures in 24 hours. This says 24 to 48 hours. This one says apply to just one side. This one says apply to one side unless you're using a rough surface, I believe that said something about that. And then you would want to apply two. It says application, yeah, bull surface. Yeah, if it's a, let's see, pronounce material. So because I know there's a gap here, I'm wondering if this is more like a gel and if this would fill in that space better. Then I'm going to try this and we'll just see what it does. If I need to go back and put just a little bit of this on the edging to hold that in place, I can do that. But I think what I want to do first is I want to check to see how it comes out, if it's runny or not. Let me grab. All right, got another separate little piece of cardboard. Yeah, it's definitely more like a gel, so that's cool. That's kind of what I was hoping for. I forgot what this was. I think this was also gel, but it was like a real fine. Yeah, it's definitely more runny. Okay, so I felt like with the gel, I might have a little more control. I guess you can use whatever you think is going to work best for you. But you can see, or at least I can see, where it's making contact. So that's where I need to put this stuff. So let's give that a shot. this up higher since I know it's gonna run down. I can't really put it on both sides, so I'm gonna try to see if it'll just touch on both. Yes, it is. I can see it kind of pulling back. I'm gonna add a little bit more, just a little bit lower. All right, and I'm also checking, make sure it looks pretty good and even on each side. I'm also checking, make sure it's not kind of bouncing back up, that it is. I'm gonna push it down, make sure it's staying where I want it. Yeah, that is. So I was going to tape it in place, but I don't think I'm gonna have to. I don't see anything running out. So that's cool. Right, I'm gonna move that one off to the side. You can see here, we're looking at, it does not touch the sole. There is a gap there. So that's intentional. So we'll set that there and try to achieve that same look there. So again, yeah, I can see where it's touching there. This one's kind of springing back. I might have to see. Let's do this. I don't have any run out there. Okay. Now I'm going to make sure that they are, oops, the same. Put this in there, act like a shim to pull that a little tighter. Okay, so let them dry and then we're good.